And welcome. It's 1 o'clock, Monday, time for Deal Doctor. Last week we tried to present something, ways to handle a listing appointment, ran into some technical difficulties, so we're going to do that over. We're going to give it a second try. In the meanwhile, wish you all Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday Season to all of yours. And don't forget, January 7, we are going to be doing Con Ed. If you haven't signed up already, please sign up. It's going to be a good one. We're going to, as some of you may know, we are going to bring in our own 5-star litigator, the guy who handles our cases when they go to E&O. We're going to handle a lot of the questions that we have handled over the last year, and then we're going to share some ways to set your sights for 2020. So I think it's going to be an excellent program. Again, for those of you who don't know, we create our own continuing education program. We don't job it out. We don't bring in anyone other than the legal expert, the 2-hour legal portion. But you will fulfill your Con Ed requirements for the year right out of the gate. You won't have to worry about them for the rest of the year. And let's all pray, cross our fingers, whatever, for great weather. Last year was a little disappointing, as we all know. So hopefully January 7th will cooperate with us. Now, the listing appointments. I get the question a lot, what do you do on a listing appointment? Now, that may seem like an odd question, but it's really not, because I look back at my own career when I first started, and I went out on a listing appointment not having anyone tell me how to structure a listing appointment, what to do, what was I there for. I kind of figured that I probably should bring along forms. I made a good guess on that one, and walked away somehow magically with a listing, which in my nervousness I managed to forget to put a zero in. So the $150,000 house I listed was actually listed at $15,000. Not a good start. Not a good start. So being prepared, even rehearsing a listing appointment, is probably something not a bad idea. Some agents are blessed with the ability to go out and sit at a kitchen table or a dining room, living room, and just have a conversation. Very easy, comfortable, and it works for them. And if it works, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But some agents need to have some structure, and I'm one of those. I want to know what I'm going to do when I get to the doorbell. And in fact, I will tell you right now that as I sit in my car getting ready to go on a listing appointment, I remember, I replay my process, which is ring the doorbell, smile, pay him a compliment, take him to the kitchen table, break the ice, take him out on a safe island, ask him a bunch of questions, and so on. So even now, 30 years later, I still use the same process and try to be flexible to respond to their reactions, but from the very beginning, I want to take control of the meeting because we're there to talk about real estate. We're there to engage in a discussion about what their goals and objectives are, not to simply have a conversation. So, some agents nowadays have their listing presentations on a laptop, tablet. Some of them don't have any listing presentation at all. Some use a standard listing presentation. And those are all good. And as my mother used to say, doing something is better than doing nothing. So whatever your process is, great. But if you don't have one, and you're asking yourself, if I had to go on a listing appointment right now, tomorrow, whatever, what would I present? What would I do? How would I tell them how I am different, better than my competitor? If you only work with your friends and relatives, you may not ever be faced with the prospect of having to show how you're better than someone else in terms of real estate. But if you're going to work FSBOs and expireds and cold calls and neighborhoods, if you're going to work your farm area, ranch, whatever it is, there are going to be times that you're going to go up against other realtors. So, here's what I do. I ring the doorbell, smile, pay him a compliment, take him to the kitchen table, break the ice. And then I share with them exactly what we're going to talk about. I tell them, because then it makes them feel more comfortable that there aren't going to be any surprises. I'm not going to throw them a curveball that they're not expecting. I explain that I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to look around the house. I'm going to show you how I get homes sold. We're going to talk about the estimated value and what you might net from that after closing costs. I'm going to present the forms, walk through some of the forms that we are going to encounter along the way, the listing contract, disclosure of agency relationship, the purchase agreement, and so on. And then ultimately, you decide, as I decide, whether or not we're going to make a good fit together, whether or not you feel as though I'm the best real estate agent for you, and I feel as though, based on the price and condition of the home, I can put all of my energies toward getting it sold for you. Fair enough? The reason I do that last step, that second half of that last step, is that I want to make it clear that I'm not here to beg for their listing. I'm here to show them what I can offer them, but I'm not here to take their listing at any price or at any condition. I don't need every listing. I only want listings that are going to sell. It's as simple as that. Now, if you become a lister, it's a lot easier to manage 10 or 12 listings than it is to manage 10 or 12 buyers. So I encourage someone, if they want a long career in the real estate business, that they learn how to list homes. And the best way to list homes is to go out on listing appointments prepared. Okay, moving on. So after I go through that, and I say, so we both have a decision to make. You get to decide whether or not I'm the right real estate agent for you, and I get to decide, based on price and terms, whether or not your home is something that I can put my energy and my money and efforts toward getting sold. Fair enough? And if they say, yeah, fair enough, great. Then we'll go to the next step. If they say no, we expect you to list our home at what we want and the condition it's currently in. I may take a look at the house, or I may say, thank you, I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you, goodbye. If they say yeah, then I'll say, well, let's start asking those questions. Why are you moving? Oh, by the way, they get harder as you go through them. Why are you moving? When do you want to move? What's your target date for moving? What major improvements have you made in the property? Now, I'm not talking only about a new roof or a new furnace. I want to know those things, but those are maintenance items. What improvements have you added? A three-season porch? Have you added a swimming pool or whatever? Who else are you talking about selling your home? Do you have other agents that you're going to be interviewing? That's really important because a lot of times you're going to run into the same real estate agents that you're competing against. And if you know their weak spots from having run into them multiple times, then you know how to present your better option. One agent that I used to compete a lot with tended to talk really fast and was really high pressure, and some people were very offended by that. And when I learned that they were talking with that agent, I would make it a point to slow down and to talk very calmly with them. And they found that comforting as compared to the other agent. So if you know who you're competing against, that gives you a really big advantage. What other sources of funds do you have available? As you know, 10 years ago, 9 years ago now, we ran into a buzzsaw. And that, actually, it's 11 years ago now. In 2008, we ran into a buzzsaw, and we watched property values literally fall out of the sky overnight. Some people are still recovering. Most all of the markets have returned the value that they had in 2008, but there are still some that are on the edge. So make sure that the equity position, make sure that your seller has an equity position. Make sure that they don't owe more money on their house than that they're going to net after they pay you a commission and pay off the mortgage. That's an important question. What price do you think your home will sell for? You don't have to get into a pricing discussion here. You're asking them a question about what they think. Ultimately, it will give you an idea of how much work you're going to have to do to get the house priced at the price that's going to sell, at a price that's going to sell. How did you arrive at that price? Just curious. And they might say Zillow. They will say Zillow, just so you know. Or they might say, well, it's twice the assessed value, or there's a bunch of things that they might say. How they arrived. We've got really sturdy nails and some heavy-duty shelves in the basement. That's how we added $30,000 to the price. Some of it makes no sense. But the point is, it gives you information. And right now, you're collecting information. And this is really the most powerful part of a listing presentation, is to gather as much information as possible. What's the most important thing to you, and what are your major concerns in making a move? Is it price, convenience, speed? Sometimes they are going to need to move fast. Right now, for example, a lot of people are being transferred within their companies and taking new jobs elsewhere. And the new employer wants their boots on the ground January 2nd. So they're in a hurry to make a move. They're busy with holidays and all of those things, but they're also packing and running around like crazy. And they're going to have to move probably before their house sells. And then once they do that, they're going to be sitting in a situation where they're going to be making two payments, maybe a rental payment or a new house payment in their new location, and the payment for the existing house and all of its maintenance, snow plowing, heat, lights, all of those things. So again, what's most important to them? A lot of times we realtors get caught up in what are the comps, what are the prices. Comps, prices, those things in my view are secondary to the seller's motivation. Seller, number one thing that I try to find out is, when do they need to move? If they need to move quickly, then that price is probably going to be pegged lower than I would if it was going to be on the market 3 or 4 months, 5, 6 months. If they were just throwing it on the market in speculation to see what it might get, I might be willing to put it at a higher price. But if they need to move fast, respond by saying, if you really want to move more quickly, if you want to get this house sold so that you're not making double payments and so on, then price it according to sell. Price it to sell. Make it go away. I mentioned the questions get harder. Here's a really tough question, and it really sort of punches the seller in the gut when you ask the question, because they haven't contemplated this question. They haven't asked themselves this question. What would it do to your plans if you could not sell? Well, and you'll see them look at each other, and it's so predictable that they haven't thought that there's a possibility that their house wouldn't sell. But it's a powerful question to ask them, because it gives you the ability to say, well, let me show you how we can make sure that your home is going to sell. Would that be okay? And then, yeah, of course. Okay. Finally, what do you need to hear from me today in order to make a decision to get the ball rolling? That's a close. That's a closing question. What do you need to hear from me today in order to get the ball rolling? I'm asking for the listing right there. It preconditions them a bit if they say, well, I need to know what your marketing program, what are you going to do to sell my house, get exposure, and so on. I need to know your commission rate, and I need to know whether you're willing to negotiate your commission rate. No. I need to know whether, what are you going to do? What are you going to provide me in terms of services for the commission that I'm going to pay you? And I say, fair enough. Thanks. I got it. Let's see if we can answer those questions for you. And then I say, how's about we look around the house? And I take my notepad, and as I get up from the listing table, from the kitchen table, I say, may I ask you a question? If I see something as I go through the house, if I see something that might help you market your home more quickly or for more money, do you want me to tell it to you, or do you want me to keep it a secret? Guess what the answer is? Always. Well, yes, of course, we want you to tell us. What you've just done there, though, is you've given them permission, or they've given you permission to essentially criticize their house. Now you're criticizing it for the purpose of making it more saleable. And that's a good thing. But sometimes if it just comes out of the blue from an agent, the seller will be a little offended if you don't ask that question. If I found something that might help you sell it more quickly or for more money, do you want me to share that with you? Well, yeah, of course. And the final question I ask as I am walking through the house or starting to walk through the house, is, wow, just left my head. We'll come back to it. It was right there. Anyway, once I have gone through the house and shared some information with them, as to maybe getting a screen fixed or a window fixed, then I take them back to the kitchen table and I say, do you mind if I share with you what I do to get homes sold? Well, of course not, but what do you think about the price? I said, well, I want to get to that in a minute, but before we do, I'd like to at least show you what I do to get the most out of your property. Oh, I know what the question is that I just forgot. If I see something, may I ask you this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Show me your property as you would have me show it to someone else. Show me something that you really have enjoyed about your home, something unique. I don't want to miss that. I want you to point it out so that I can share it in my marketing program. Again, it's a closing statement. It's a presumptive close that I am going to get this listing if I want it. And now I want you to tell me something special about your home that you've really enjoyed that maybe I might miss, but that might be important to a potential buyer. I knew it was an important question. Penny McCrae, are you willing to share your listing presentation pages? Only with you, Penny. Absolutely, only with you. No, of course, I'd be happy to. I've actually, I have 4 of these, or 5, I can't remember. I should say I had, because I have loaned them out to agents to make copies for themselves so that they can create their own. I'm down to 2 copies now. I don't know where the other copies have gone, but I'm not. I'm gonna take pretty good care of the last 2 copies I have here. So, absolutely, I would be happy to make a set for you if you're going to be down in Grand Rapids, and you can take those things and then create your own using this as an example, by all means. Okay. Now, a few years ago, I created a company called PHG, Premier Home Group, and it is a group within 5 Star, and I provide advertising services. That is that's my background. That's where I came from, and I have really good connections in that industry to this day. And so that's kind of my niche. It's always been my niche, is to provide unique advertising for my listings. And so I present what I've got. And I explain to them that this is what I do. I provide exceptional advertising for their properties. Today I do a lot of videos, every property I have. I have professional voice talent that I use out of Houston, a professional video editor, do the best photography I can find, and license professional music tracks from jingle houses. I have all of those resources, and I use them to offer something, to present something that is unique to me that will help somebody else's home to get sold. I do personalized brochures for homes. For example, this one says it was down on Lake Doster, about an hour's drive from downtown Grand Rapids, and it says far enough to escape, close enough to escape to every day. Exit the rush of the city in fewer than 30 to 45 minutes. Relax. Grab your fishing pole and a cold one and sit at the end of the dock. Decompress. And it goes on to explain the lifestyle that this property offers, which is to be on a lake within commuting distance every single day. And you can go out fishing or skiing or swimming every single day that you come home from work. And it was actually a pretty powerful brochure. Got the home sold pretty quickly. I also share all of the other things that I do in my listing presentation, starting with the first 36 hours. Here's all the stuff I do within 36 hours. In the next 48 hours, here's all the stuff that happens. In the first 7 to 10 days, here's what's going to happen. I give them an action plan for what's going to happen to get their house sold. I do 4-color flyers, brochures, postcards that I mail out to their neighborhood. I mail out announcements for open houses. And then I share with them a bunch of testimonials that I've gotten over the years from various clients. Let's see. If you're ready to move, call Don and then get ready to start packing because he is going to sell your home fast. Thanks, John. Appreciate that one. He has an in-depth knowledge of the local market and is extremely responsive. We really enjoyed working with him. Thanks, Ethan and Stacy. And I just share a few of them. My favorite one of all is from the Niles family from years ago. It says, "To the best realtor in the USA, thank you very much." That pretty much covers it. Very, very nice comments, obviously, that I share with a potential client. I also share just a little list of the homes that I've sold. Just a few. And brochures. Again, this one says, "Escape to the woods every day." I share my degrees, my diploma, if you will, from Floyd Wickman, Michigan Association of Realtors Awards, the CRS diploma, the ABR, the ePro, all of this stuff, a letter from Dave Liniger when I was at RE/MAX, and my Sales Advisory Council experience, and when I was inducted into the RE/MAX Hall of Fame. All of this helps people understand what my level of experience is, and then handwritten notes from clients that were kind enough to send them to me. So, again, and my answer at the end of this is, or my question at the end of this is, based on what I've shared with you today, do you think I'm capable of selling your home? And the answer I always get is, well, yeah, but I want to know what the price is. Fair enough. Before I share that, may I share this with you? And I don't know if you can see that. How close can we get on that, Dom? Up, or over?
Tip it down a little bit.
How are we doing?
It's pretty good.
Okay. Well, there's always someone who'll do it cheaper. And here the guy has an idea of what he wants tattooed on his back, and this doesn't cut it. So there's always someone who's going to do it cheaper. So before I share with you the information about price and commission, I'm just going to make that statement. But let's go back to price and commission.
Question.
I'm sorry?
Question.
Do I do the same marketing for each home? Amanda Heath Sanderson asks. By that I mean 150,000 versus a 500,000. Sometimes I feel the market has some of the lower priced sold before you get a chance to do brochures and mail out postcards. Wow, this is a really great question, and here's my answer. Never sell with blah blah when you can sell with blah. In other words, if you don't need to do a video, if you don't need to do a 4-color brochure to get a $150,000 house sold, then don't. Weigh your marketing by the price of the home and ultimately the commission you're going to get. That's a sensible thing to do. So if you send out a postcard or a mailing, those are still good things to do. But maybe if that house sells really fast, what you're going to be sending out is a postcard that says sold. Are you thinking of making a move? Call me. So again, the answer is weigh it by the amount of commission that you're going to make. Does that help, Amanda? Hope so. Moving on. When I get to the question of commission or of price, I always use what I call the dilemma technique. And the dilemma technique goes like this. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have a dilemma. And my dilemma is I know that there are some agents out there who are unscrupulous, maybe a little more unscrupulous, that will tell you whatever you want to hear in order to get the listing. And I don't want to be that agent. I want to tell you the truth. So my question to you is this. Do you want me to lie to you, or do you want me to level with you? The answer is always, the one I've always gotten, is level with me. And then you again have asked them permission to be straight with them. They will believe you more under that circumstance. Then I talk about, and we've talked about this in the pricing class I did. I look at brackets. Where is their house going to, what bracket is their house going to fall into? And then, based on their motivation, where am I going to price that house? So if the bracket is between $250,000 and $275,000, and they want to get it sold within 30 days because they've got to have their boots on the ground in Des Moines, Iowa in January, I'm going to be moving a lot closer to the $250 mark in the sales price than I am to the $275. I hope that makes sense. We've kind of run out of time here, but I wanted to at least give you the format, kind of the template for a listing appointment. And the better you get at controlling a listing appointment, whether you use a presentation book like this, or you have something on your computer, or just sitting and talking with them at the kitchen table or living room, the better you control the meeting, the more likely you are to be successful, in not only getting the listing, but getting it at a price that's going to sell. We can talk about price in a deeper, more detailed presentation at another time, but at least that gets you started in terms of structuring a listing presentation and knowing the right questions to ask. Thanks for joining. Again, we'll see you next week, and in the meanwhile, enjoy the holidays. Thanks.